Okay, howdy everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today we'll be talking about the Google Solution Challenge and how you can prepare if you're interested in participating in this contest. Towards the end, we will also have a brainstorming session and we're going to open the floor to questions and discussions. So if you have any ideas in your mind that you want to discuss with us, get our feedback, or just kind of brainstorm along with us, that would be the time to do that. So let's get started. Firstly, what is the solution challenge? So, as you can read on the slides, the solution challenge is an annual contest presented by developer student clubs that invites students to develop solutions for local community problems using one or more Google products or platforms. So, essentially, what this means is that you need to look around yourself, identify one problem or maybe many problems that people around you are facing, and try to come up with solutions to solve those problems. And you need to implement your solution through a project, a technical project that will kind of solve their problem. So, there are many important things to keep in mind when you identify a problem or identify a solution, and others as well. And that's what we're going to go over today. So, first of all, let's look at the important requirements. So, the project that you will be submitting finally to this contest must meet some requirements. So, firstly, it should address a local community problem. So, you need to make sure that whatever solution you're developing solves a problem that the people around you are facing. Um, there's more aspects to it again, and we'll be going over that. Your submission must come from a team at a university with an active DSC. So, good news for you, Texas A&M has a chapter of DSC already, and you're attending one of our events, so you have already met one of the requirements. Your project must be built within a year of the contest start date. So, the contest will be starting in January, this coming January, so that's January 2021. What this means is that you could have started working on your project in January 2020 and you had kind of a year to work on it. So, what you want to take away from this point is that now is the best time to get started. You are within the time frame that they outline in their requirements, and the contest will open in January. You'll have until March to make a submission. So, yeah. Your project must use one or more of Google products or platforms. So you can use as many of these as you want, but you should be using one. And I do want to point out that we have done workshops on two really popular products and technologies, that is Flutter and TensorFlow in the past. So if you attend those events and you kind of think that those are some tools that you can use in your project, then um, definitely go ahead and do that. If you weren't able to attend the event, you can look at the recording and other things. But we'll also be covering some new technologies next semester, so keep an eye out for those. In terms of, so these are the requirements that your project needs to meet, but you should be over 18 years of age and you can only make one submission to the contest. So you cannot make multiple projects and submit them to this challenge. Next, we have the submission details. So when you're done with your project, what do you need to submit? So firstly, you need to submit a link to whatever code you wrote as a part of your project. And this code needs to be hosted on some kind of a version control system. So we at DSC will be using GitHub, and our projects coordinator, projects director will be going over this requirement in a few slides. So you will be like this requirement will be taken care of, so you don't need to worry about that. The next thing is that you need to include a README, which should explain how to run your code. So this can be as elaborate as you need it to be, but it should have very clear instructions on how to like what happens when your repository gets cloned, how do you actually run your code. So this should be a good description and a list of instructions. Then you need to include a video of 2 minutes or less in length showing a demo of your working application. So this video is really important because it is like one of the main parts of your submission. And this is where most of the judging will go in. And you need to look at, like, notice the keywords here. You need to show a demo of your working application. So whatever project you develop should be in a working stage when you whatever film this video. So you need to keep that in mind. And we will be looking at an example of a video that another team of students made for their submission. So before that, let's look at the judging criteria. So each project will be judged on a scale of 0 to 100, and you can look at the point allocation. But the three main important things that the judges will be looking for is first impact. So they need to see that your project like you kind of identified a clear problem and your project actually solves the problem. You need to make sure that this is a problem that the people around you actually face, and it is a local problem. Those are all of the requirements for the contest. Another thing that's really important is user feedback and testing. So since this is a local problem that you're solving, it is kind of assumed that you're in proximity to the audience that you will be serving. So at each stage of your project, you can get feedback from the intended user, and just to make sure that whatever you're developing actually meets their needs. And you can test your project along those lines and make sure that you're meeting the bigger picture goal. In terms of technology, again, your project needs to be an effective solution to the problem that you identified in the beginning. So it should actually be solving the problem, because many things can happen between identifying a problem and solution and to actually delivering the end product, and you don't want to get lost in between. Another thing to focus on is the usage of a Google product or one of their platforms. So in your video or in the README, you will be elaborating on which product you used, why you used it, how you used it, where you used it. And there needs to be a clear description of this. The user interface is really important because you need to keep your audience in mind and make sure that whatever product you're developing is easy to use, and the people don't feel overwhelmed when using your product. And again, the README is really important because they will be looking at how um, clear of a description you've provided of how to use your project. Another thing that's really important is scalability. So your project will be assessed on its current stage, and like if there were a few minor changes or something like that, would your project then be able to serve multiple users across multiple regions? So is it scalable in the big run? But of course, there's like more in-depth kind of explanation of all of these criteria. And these slides will be shared, so you can go onto this link and take a look and read properly before you actually start working on your project, because you want to make sure that you meet all the criteria and requirements. So this is the video of um, a project submission that was made in the past. So this is what we'll be taking a look at. And what I want to point out here is that while you're watching this video, make sure that you try, or at least try to identify the different steps that the team followed or the different strategies that they took. And we'll be looking at these strategies a little bit in depth after the slide. But before that, let me hope it's interesting. All right, so it won't go full screen if we put it on YouTube. And can someone confirm if you can hear the audio? Is it audible? Yes? Okay, cool. Okay, let me start.
Saya dilahirkan di Bojonegoro. Ibu saya mendidik saya boleh main, tapi bermainnya itu nggak boleh jauh-jauh. Saya melihat kakak saya kebanjiran, yang paling parah tahun 2007, di mana rumahnya itu sangat tenggelam, banyak korban jiwa yang ditimbulkan, dan kakak saya itu kehilangan. Kemarin ya lumayan, kemarin. Kalau airnya semakin tinggi kan,
nggak bisa lalu lintas kendaraan kan nggak bisa lewat, kita biasanya pakai perahu. Palingnya kalau udah agak parah lagi kita ngungsi.
Warga juga pasti resah kalau enggak sebelumnya belum diberitahu kan resah. Kalau sudah diberitahu kan nanti ada persiapan. Saya ketika kuliah di PENS ini, saya pertama kali tahu DSC itu dari dana. Seharusnya kita bisa menghindari hal buruk terjadi ketika kita mengetahui apa yang akan terjadi. Dana membantu saya sekali dalam hal tersebut bersama tim untuk membuat aplikasi Elfloat.
Alatnya itu bersifat kayak misal di sini bakalan ada banjir dari pemerintah bakal langsung tidak berdasarkan yang sebelumnya berdasarkan data kami itu berdasarkan dari WhatsApp. Jadi setelah itu penduduk bisa ke posko terdekat. Di sini ada lokasi poskonya. Terus kita bisa kayak ngeset arahnya belok kiri mau ke belok kanan gitu ada. Karena kita memanfaatkan teknologi arahan juga dari Google. Oke, sudah selesai?
Oke, selesai. Kemudian kita mencoba ke sana, kita menunjukkan ke warga Bojonegoro. Kalau sekarang kalau ada aplikasi ini kan bisa langsung masuk ke HP-nya masing-masing. Jadi semua warga otomatis langsung tahu.
Di sini kita milih Balai Desa
Mulia Agung,
Beja Arah. Di sini kita bisa lihat di posko ini ada berapa banyak orang.
Membantu banget berarti ya, sangat amat membantu.
Iya. Ini rencana emang akan kami rintis ke Bojonegoro.
Oh gitu ya.
This is the power of DSC. So in all over the world, we can learn and teaching together and also to solve local problems.
Dengan adanya aplikasi Elfloat ini, saya merasa sangat senang sekali saya bisa membantu warga masyarakat Bojonegoro, terutama untuk kakak saya.
Right. Can you all see the slides again? Okay, cool. Yeah, another thing, let me actually exit out of this, that I wanted to show is that, so I know that this project can be like really overwhelming to look at because, they're solving such a large scale problem and it's like a really great project. But I also want to take a look at another project, which is also a winning submission that maybe you can relate to a little bit more. So this is from 2020, and you can look at this project over here. So in this, what they did is that they created an Android app, which kind of told students on the campus about different places or like upcoming events, student profiles. You can book marketplace, and there's a bunch of things that you can do related to your campus and the amenities over there. So this is something that maybe you can relate to a bit more if you want to develop something for Texas A&M University, something that we can use as students. So that is also okay. Like you don't have to look at like the really big picture goal. Anything like any local problem that you can solve with your project is a valuable idea to work on. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to mention. Let me go back to. Okay, yeah. So in this video, so we saw like the kind of different things that they worked on, and let's discuss what their steps were. So how did they develop their project? So first, they identified a problem, which was that there were a lot of floods in their city, and people could not be, people wouldn't receive alerts in adequate time, and they didn't have any time to prepare to, face the flood. So this is really important, identifying a problem. So how we can apply this is that you can look around yourself. Again, like I said, look on your campus. You can talk to your friends, talk to peers, maybe talk to professors and see, is there something that, a majority of people have a problem with, or something that they don't find easy to use or easy to do. And maybe you can develop a solution for that. Again, it's not limited to your campus community, so you can look around even more in a bigger radius and look at local businesses and NGOs, anything in your local community, any problem that people around you are facing. Um, is a good idea to kind of think about how you can solve it. The next step is identifying a solution. Again, many things go into that. So you need to analyze the need. What this means is that you need to like figure out what is the problem that you're addressing and how your idea will be meeting the user's needs. You need to develop something that will actually help them and not something that you think is going to help them. So how this works is that you need to discuss your idea with the end user and make sure that both of you are on the same page and your project will actually be helping them, because that is what your aim is. You also need to analyze your resources. So if you think of an idea which is like for a project that's like such a large scale project that you cannot develop in the given time frame or with the given resources, or with the amount of people that you have on your team, the number of people that you have on your team, and other things. So you need to analyze the resources that you have and kind of scale your project along those lines. One of the last things that you want to look at is capabilities. So who is going to be on your team? And you need to analyze those people's strengths and make sure that whatever idea you come up with is feasible within the given time frame, and that you as collectively as a team can work on it. The next thing that goes into project development is designing the interface. And this comes before designing the technology. So this is really important, because how will the user interact with your product? So what is the interface going to look like? If it's something really really cumbersome and overwhelming, then people might not use it, because you need to keep your end user in mind and make sure that you develop something which people actually want to use and would like to use. If you're making an app, you want to make sure that people actually want to download the app and then use it. So there's multiple things again that go into that. So designing the interface is really important, and the last step is designing the technology. And this is the step that kind of everyone wants to jump to, but they don't realize that there are more steps that come before that. And as you can see, all of these are hyperlinks to YouTube videos, which have really, really amazing insights into how each of these steps work and what you need to do. So again, we'll be sharing these slides and make sure to take a look. So in our introduction to open source workshop, we looked at how to identify a problem. And now, as we're kind of progressing, let's look at how to identify a solution. Again, this will not
in our last
work.
video, we talked about identifying a problem. But a problem without a solution is, well, just a problem. My name is Arman Hazarkani, and in this video, we'll discuss methods through which we can identify a solution. Welcome to the Developer Student Club Solution Challenge. So we've defined our problem. Let's say it's that college students on our campus find it difficult and time-consuming to find places to study. We define this, as we discussed in our last video, through conversation. Now it's time to find a solution to this problem. The output of this step can be something like a tool that lets students reserve study spots on their campus, or a tool that lets students see their campus's real-time availability. We don't want to build or even design the solution yet. Those steps come next, and we'll cover them in the next two videos. Instead, we want to identify on a more basic level how students can find places to study more easily. One popular method is an exercise developed at GV, formerly known as Google Ventures, called the Design Sprint. Usually done as a 5-day exercise, the Design Sprint is a flexible framework for solving problems through designing, prototyping, and testing ideas with users. It allows you and your team to validate ideas before going through all of the energy of building a product. On day one, you map out the problem and choose a specific target. So for our example, we would map out how students are currently finding study spots and who our target audience will be. Maybe college first years who don't know these cool secret places on campus. The second day is for ideation. You'll come up with as many solutions as you possibly can, and there is no wrong answer. My favorite exercise for this step is Crazy Eights, where each member of your team on their own comes up with 8 ideas in 8 minutes. Now we have this big pool of solutions, and the next step is to pick the best one. For this step, I'd recommend using the dot voting method because it's super simple. Just have every team member hang their sketches on a wall and quickly present their solution. Then, when it's time to vote, have each team member draw a dot on the 3 solutions they like most. On the 4th day, we create prototypes. I'd recommend drawing wireframes and using a tool like Marvel to turn them into a clickable app or website. Lastly, we test our prototypes with real users. You'll conduct interviews and you'll find some patterns which will ultimately lead you towards the best solution to your problem. The design sprint is presented as a 5-day exercise, but it's flexible, so you can do it on your own timeline. You should walk into this exercise knowing the problem you want to solve and leave this exercise with a solution that you are confident in. Problems are just problems until you've found a solution. Hopefully after this, you're one step closer to building a great solution that'll touch lives right in your community.
Okay. All right. So now that we've looked at the different steps of project development, I just want to highlight real quick what resources you have and what help you have from us. So firstly, you have your own local chapter of DSC. Yay, great news. We are here to help you. And we have great resources for you. When you start working on a project, and if you're using a Google Cloud technology, we can provide credits to the Google Cloud platform for you to use. So keep that in mind. You will be getting credits from us and you can talk to us about that. But other than that, in our open source workshop, we talked about a lot of open source projects that you can use or kind of integrate into your own idea. And this is again the link. I think it's a link tree where there are like we have highlighted multiple important open source projects or like popular ones that you can take a look at. And at this point, I also want to mention, so there is one requirement for the solution challenge that if you use an open source project in your own idea, you need to clearly mention why you used it, where you used it, and again, how you used it. So, I mean, you're allowed to use open source projects, but you need to kind of highlight that. So again, this part will go in your README. We also have Think Tank. So I know it's not kicked off just yet, but we will be kicking off our think tank real soon. And once that's done, you will have access to mentors who have, who have specialization in a particular field. And then if that is something that you're using in your project, you can get help from them. Another resource that you have is the global DSC network. So what this means is that DSC, again, like is like a global community. So there are so many clubs all around the world, and all of us do different events. So how you can learn about these events is on our Slack. Again, there's a separate independent channel called DSC Global, where we post about the events, workshops that other DSCs are doing. And if there's a technology that they're covering that we haven't yet done a workshop on, you can definitely attend theirs. And you have access to all of these. So that's another great resource that you would want to leverage. And the last thing, so when you register for the solution challenge, when you register as a participant, you are added to a community. It's like a platform where you're connected with all the other students who are also participating in the challenge. And you also have access to these Google developer experts, which are, like the name suggests, people who are experts in a particular Google technology. And you will have, so they'll be present as mentors, and you can talk to them about, like, if you're using a particular technology that you need help with, so they will definitely be there to guide you. And you have already met one GDE in our TensorFlow workshop, Henry. He's the GDE for Texas A&M, and his field of specialization is machine learning. So there are multiple resources around you. So make sure that you leverage all of them.
Just wanted to jump in. So GDEs are available in almost all of the major cities in the US. So if you want, obviously taking COVID restrictions, you can actually demo them their application live, and they can give you feedback. All of the GDEs that I've met so far are super helpful. They will help you with like whatever needs you have. Plus, they might even suggest you some solutions that you might not have thought of, because these are like experts in their field. So they will give you ideas that even it's still in research phases, but you can implement on your project. So um, I would definitely go for that option of like meeting a GDE whenever possible, because they will give you really good ideas regarding your project.
Okay. So now Aditi will kind of talk about the process of getting started with the project. So Aditi, let me know when you want to change the slides.
Yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, once you realize that this is an amazing opportunity and you decide to go ahead and get started with your project, the first step for that would be to join the team formation channel on our Slack. We have the link right there. And on this channel, hackathon style, you can go ahead and post about any ideas that you have for projects, or if you don't have an idea yet, you can post about your skill set or areas of interest that you might be wanting to pursue in a possible solution. Or you can even go ahead and reply to other people's posts if they have an idea that you find interesting. And you can, of course, ask us for help with brainstorming and all of the resources that Dakshika mentioned in the last slide. You can go ahead and change the slide. Yeah, so once you have a team, you would first want to pick out a project manager. And this project manager would be responsible for coordinating with me and your team and kind of be the liaison between those two groups. And when you have an idea for your project, you have two Google Forms that you have to fill out. One is specifically for the project managers. This is kind of the overview of the topic that you selected and like the solution that you're proposing. And the other is for the project manager as well as the other team members. And this is kind of just information about the participants. So we have links to both of those there as well. And after you have submitted your project idea, you can contact me. Or first, you can set up a recurring meeting with your team to make sure that you have sprint timeline set up and you're able to share your progress with each other frequently. And you would want to also create an initial timeline to see and map out when you start and finish your project and the different checkpoints that you have to make sure that you're meeting your goals periodically. And then you can set up a bi-weekly meeting with me. There's my Slack, and we can coordinate every 1 to 2 weeks to make sure that you are getting all the help that you need and you're making progress on your work. And after that, you can go ahead and get started on your project. And we have a team GitHub for DSC set up. So I can provide you the link with that, but you would probably want to make your project public on that and commit to it frequently so that you're able to keep track of your changes and have them saved on the cloud, and we can help you get started on that. And we also have a really big announcement. So if you don't have a project idea yet, but you really want to work on a challenge with us or a solution with us, we have partnered with the Down Syndrome Association of Brazos Valley, which is a local NGO in the Bryan College Station area. And this is really big and really close to our hearts because Club has never partnered with an NGO at this capacity, and we're actually coordinating with them to assemble a team in DSC in our chapter to help them create an app that basically allows their students and teachers to communicate and have them either post or sign up for events that they organize. And we want the teachers to be able to have an admin dashboard and be able to modify these events, and all of the users can set up their own profiles. So this is a pretty large scale project, and we really want it to be done well. So we want to assemble a strong team for this that is really passionate about the project and feels like they can do a good job. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please let us know. You can contact any of the officers, and we really hope that you want to pursue this.
Aditi, do you also want to mention about the team size and those requirements?
Oh, yeah. So this might be a larger project. So the thing is, with the solution challenge, you have a capacity of 4 members per team, and this can be kind of up to yours and discretion. So if you feel that 4 members in a team that you formed can take this project and do it well, then you can go ahead and use it as a solution challenge project and submit it. But if you feel like you need more people and you still want this to be something that you participate in and get experience from, then you can create a larger team and still work on it.
One thing that I wanted to focus on with this project is that this will probably give you the most real life experience that you can get like with an internship or something. And it's a great thing you can do in like your winter semester or like winter break. And not only will you understand like how to get forward and get ahead in like, let's say, consulting role, because this is essentially like a consulting project, but moreover, you can put it on your resume like, hey, so I deployed an app that's valid in like Down Syndrome Association of Brazos Valley, and they've already told us that if they like it, they can deploy it nationally. So every single Down Syndrome Association group or chapter will start using your application. So it's something big that you can that can make your resume shine. And moreover, like you will be still working on a real life project that will have like real life consequences. So this is one of the, like, if I had this in my freshman or sophomore year, I would have probably done it most because like one, finding a project is hard. Second, you don't have as many internships as possible. So like this will add that experience that internships don't.
Yes, this is a really amazing opportunity for all of you who are interested. And yeah, like Shay mentioned, real world application. Another thing that I want to mention is that since this is a local community problem, you'll have the opportunity to kind of coordinate and test your project or your product at different times. So again, the local proximity idea kind of comes in, and you want to make sure that you test it with the intended user or like the end user and kind of progress along those lines. So yeah, and again, to reiterate, in order to participate in the solution challenge, your team must be a team of 4 people. But in case you are interested in working on this project and feel that 4 people are not sufficient and that this is a larger project, you can still assemble a larger team, but then you won't be able to participate in the competition. So just keep that in mind. And again, if you're interested in participate or like in working on this project, reach out to any of us or reach out to Aditi. Her Slack is mentioned in one of the previous slides. So yeah, keep that in mind. And I think that's it, that all we have. And now Shrey is going to talk about some amazing project ideas. So yeah, let me know when you want to change the slides.
Yeah. So we talked about these great projects and how they can help you with the solution challenge or like your resume, for example. But the biggest problem that I faced was how to find a project. We talked about how to find a solution. We talked about how to find an open source project to work on and stuff like that. But how do you find a project in your local community that can help your local community and enter you for the solutions challenge? Well, so here are a couple of things that I've looked at. One, look at problems around you. This is usually the hardest thing to do, and it's the first thing you should do. Because if you find a problem, then you find a solution. If you don't have a problem, then there's other steps that you might want to implement. But this generally, there are problems that you see in your day-to-day life, but you don't realize, hey, this is a problem or this is something that other people might struggle with. until you actually experience it firsthand and think about it in terms of coding, right? So that is one thing that you should keep in mind while doing the solution challenge. Like, understand that everything that you see has a problem that can be solved via coding. Almost everything that you see, right? And like, just think about that. Second thing that you can do is improvise on existing ideas. I did a project called Aggie Maps, which was built upon this idea of like bus mapping, which was also done by my friend. It's, you can download it via the Spirit app on App Store and Play Store. But essentially what he did was he made a map system that would allow you to go from place A to place B and understand which buses are on the route. What our project did was it not only found bus route, but also walking routes around campus and used machine learning internally to figure out what exact time will the bus reach on that specific location. So let's say whenever A&M says like, hey, this bus will reach there at 11:30 a.m., it usually reaches there at like 12:30. So uh, we use that, we use their own API to figure out when that bus would reach that specific spot. And then we did an aggregation of that data and improvised upon that. So it was an already existing app that we improvised upon, right? So that's something that you can do. It's never wrong to over engineer things. Later I talk about an API that I made to access another API. So like, if you really want to do something and like you really want to work on a project, maybe create a few things that are over engineered, because they might help you solve some problems that you don't even see forthcoming. Again, I'll talk about that later, but that's something that you can do. So the other thing to keep in mind while looking for projects is something that you want to learn. So I wanted to learn how to make an API. So I kept that in my mind while working on my first project. You might want to learn how to use React, or you might want to learn how to use Jamstack or something like that. So keep that in mind while looking for ideas, because not all ideas will fit into that. And it's hard to fit ideas into things you want to learn, but it's easy to fit things you want to learn into ideas, if that makes sense. Yeah, if you don't have any idea or you don't see any problem, join a team. We have an idea with the Brazos Valley Down Syndrome Association. You can join that team and contribute to something well. You will learn a few things, you will find a few problems, you will get other project ideas. I think someone said this in one of our meetings earlier, but the best way to find a project is to work on a project, because that will show you other problems that exist, and that will allow you to find other projects that you can do in the future. So join a project, join an existing team. It might help you find your next big thing, right? Lastly, if you don't find any problems around you, create some. There's always enough problems in, like, let's say classrooms, or like something is not needed, but then you can put a need for something being needed. Like, let's say in one of our classes, we started using Slack, right? So not everyone requires a Slack bot, but if you create like a specific thing that allows the professor to send X amount of messages to X amount of students or something like that, that's not always needed. That's not never a problem for the professor, but if it's making his life or her life easy, then you should do it, right? If it's just a spam bot, go for it. Like, it's fine. You learn a lot. You will do things. Again, it might not qualify for the solution challenge, but you will still have an idea about how to do stuff in terms of projects, and it will help you find your new project. And I would go about it in that order. I shouldn't have made them bullet points. I should have made them numbered list, but go about it in that order and see if you can find a good thing. Next slide. Yeah, I don't know if you can see this clearly, but this is how motivation on a project works. Like, you're super excited, you get something done, then there's a huge dip. Like, okay, so this is where I'm stuck, and a lot of students quit there. But keep going, keep going, keep going, and eventually you will end that project. But towards the end, as I said, every new project that you do will give you some ideas about a future project. You will get an idea about that future project that interests you even more than your current project. Please don't leave your current project at that point, because it's near to completion. And if you leave your project at that point, you don't even have a single project done, if that makes sense. And this is the general project cycle. I have done this multiple times, and so have other people. I got this off of Twitter, so it makes total sense to me at least. But don't do this. Like, figure out how to complete your current project and then jump onto the new one. Next slide, Dakshita. Yeah. So again, a system that I made. I think this was in the freshman year. Context: I was in electrical engineering. I did not want to do coding, but I joined Aggie coding club, so like I had to do something. Um, so I started. I wanted to learn about how to create an API. There was a workshop there, and it got me interested. So the problem that I saw was a lot of people were spamming my group me for like laundry machines that were done in the hall. And I don't know if you stay in the dorm or not, but at least in our hall, it was a big problem. So what I did was I created my own API that would use the laundry machines API to do tasks on the back end. So let's say I created a simple form, HTML form, where you would just put in, hey, like I'm using this machine, and here's my number, here's my email ID. And then whenever you submit that form, it goes to the API, sees if the machine is running, updates my own database, and then the form is linked to my API. And then it keeps checking the machine's API every single minute. And when the machine is done, it will send you an email and a text message. So the whole idea of spamming the group me is away, because you will get your personalized message and like an email or something, and that will allow you to come down and get your laundry. So again, as I said, I wanted to learn how to create an API, so I created my own API. In this problem, it kind of fit, but if I look back on it, I probably wouldn't have created an API. It should have been like a serverless system, but I learned that from that point. Like, I did not know what a serverless system would look like, but I learned that from that system, and then I went on and created like other projects that were based on serverless systems. So if it's your first project, pick a small idea like this, like stop spamming my group me for laundry machines, right? And then build it up, over engineer it to a point where like it works and it helps your um, community or whoever your target audience is, and make sure it does work. Like, just don't leave the project towards the end. And I remember other halls in front of us, like McFadden and Fowler, I think they came over and they wanted the same system, so we implemented it there as well. So it's really simple. All it was like one QR code that you need to scan, one simple HTML form that you need to submit, and something on the back end that checks an API for a minute. But it helped them solve the problem of not getting spammed on their group means. So again, this is not a Google solution challenge sort of problem, because you're just not allowing people to spam your group me, but it'll get you to that problem. Next slide. Yeah, and this is something that I live by. It's never wrong to code a program to code programs.
All right. I think at this point, that is all the content that we wanted to share with you. And yeah, so if you have any ideas that you want to discuss with us or any questions that you want to ask, now is the time to do that. You can put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I actually have a general question. I'm assuming a lot of people, not just the people on this call, have, where if they're having trouble finding other teammates, or yeah, specifically teammates or even project ideas, what should they do if they're having this trouble communicating with other people or just trying to get teams together?
So I would say the first step to get started is join the team formation channel. There are a bunch of people there who have already posted that they're looking for a team. Maybe they have an idea that they want to work on, and maybe you can, just follow up with someone in someone else's thread or start your own thread. Maybe you have your own idea that you want to, you just want to form a team. So you can post your idea in there. In order to get people to respond, what you need to do is that you need to tell them about your skills. Tell them if you have an idea, or tell them if you don't have an idea, and I'm just, trying to brainstorm with you. Maybe you have, and not necessarily. So I do want to point out that maybe you have friends who you want to work on your project with. Maybe they're not in the team formation channel. You can invite them to join, and all of you can form a team together. But yeah, that's kind of the ideas that I have, would say.
All right, sounds great.
Yes. So, um, all of you on this call, do you have a team or an idea, or are you looking for a team? Are you looking for an idea? Which phase are you in? Are you interested in participating, in competing? You can put it in the chat, or you can talk.
You can also let us know if you're interested in the Down Syndrome Association project.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but like 3 of us on this call are currently on a team, so we're like brainstorming, and like we have a Google Doc where we're trying to like come up with ideas so that we don't just like jump to the first idea. Yeah.
That's great. And there are like these other videos that were linked in the slides earlier, if you take a look at those. So once you and your team come up with a bunch of ideas, you can use a number of different kind of processes to pick the best idea. So you can have people vote and list their top 3, and then try to analyze the impact that each of the projects will have, and yeah, go from there. So it's a great way. Any other questions or ideas you might want to discuss? Three, two, one. Okay. I don't think that anyone else has any questions. So yeah, I think we're going to end it for today. Thank you so much for joining, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for all the